the world have come together to celebrate the future is the arts. Why? Well, since 1999, we have had global NetGeneration of youth programs designed to inspire youth to inquire, aspire, achieve academically, pursue successful career paths, and lead a life of service on the local, national, and international stage. Many of the educators and leaders across the land got involved with NetGeneration of youth because they were committed to creating and catalyzing change and creating the opportunity-rich learning environments for the youth. We recognize that our future on Earth depends on leaders capable of designing global solutions to the global challenges. And the people that we can rely on in the future, the people are so we thank the educators and adults who are committed to joining our community, serving as pioneers to shape the contours of our emerging cyber civilization, harnessing technology as tools of communication and collaboration. And today we had a little bit of a problem with our connections, but we are working with them. We appreciate the collaboration that allows us to connect, communicate, and collaborate. We believe that our students can shape the future when they are prepared as global citizens who are media literate learners and leaders. This year, we're celebrating The Global Future is Now, and this virtual visit, December 10th, is celebrating the arts. This is very timely because we are not only committed to helping the youth explore the purpose of their life in order to live a life of purpose, but we're also committed to their understanding their place in the world. And the arts is a very significant force. Just this weekend at the Kennedy Center, our president, President Barack Obama, highlighted the significance of the arts when he invoked the words of the former president, John F. Kennedy. And I quote, "The life of the arts, far from being an interruption, a distraction in the life of the nation, is very close to the center of a nation's purpose." Secretary Kerry, who hosted the event reception, went on to say that art is a transformational force around the world and a powerful way to showcase American culture. But it also is a way of showcasing culture around the world. Today, it's my pleasure to introduce you not only to a featured artist and hip-hop artist, but to two educational pioneers in Prince George's County. They share the perspective of the visionary superintendent, CEO, Dr. Kevin Maxwell, and they're innovating a district-wide arts integration network. I want you to welcome the visionary leader, Mr. John Shishini, the executive officer from the Office of Arts Integration. Mr. Shishini?
Hello. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, no matter where you are in the world. That has to be appropriate. It's very exciting for me to be here. And by here, I mean, of course, at this NGY conference, but I also mean here in Prince George's County. In a lot of places, the arts are being cut, but not here in Prince George's County. In Prince George's County, we value the arts. We value the arts because they contribute to creativity. They give students opportunities for problem solving. They give students opportunities for collaboration, things that are very important to be prepared for the 21st century. In the past, we focused a lot on content. Sure, content is important, but we have Google now. If we want an answer to something, we ask Google. The process is also very, very important, and the arts engage us in that process. I am the Arts Integration Officer And what that means is we want to teach in and through the arts, and we want to train the leaders and the school system employees to be able to do this. To do this, we enlisted the entire community, the teaching artists, the politicians, the people that really want to make this happen. I'm very fortunate. We have 15 pilot schools, and one of our pilots is one of the best schools in Prince George's County. We're here today, and that is Suitland High School. And I'm going to introduce to you now one of our arts integration pioneers, and that is the principal of this school, Mr. Nate Newman.
I'd like to thank Mr. Shashini for that introduction and thank Dr. Lowenstein for this opportunity. It is my delight to welcome you guys here to this global virtual visit. One of the things that I'm really excited about is the work that NGY is doing as they're preparing students for the 21st century. As they're preparing students for this globally competitive environment, it so aligns with the mission statement here at Suitland High School. You know, we're here to prepare students to be socially ready for this global community as well as academically. So we're excited about the alignment. You know, our district focus as well as Suitland's focus is literacy. So we're super excited about our guest here today and what he's going to present to you. But what I really want to do at this time is to simply thank and congratulate all the individuals who had a hand in putting this together. So again, Mr. John Shashini, Dr. Lowenstein, but our lead teachers here at Suitland and our Suitland ambassadors, our students. So Mr. Richard McGee, we want to thank him for all the work that he's doing. We want to thank Ms. Tiffany Anderson for the work that she's doing. We also have Ms. Latoya Scott, who's working as well, Ms. Myrtle Bridgevasi, and the list can go on and on, but I want to thank them for their work. And where I want to go right now is I want to introduce you to one of our ambassadors here at the school. She's a super fantastic student. She exemplifies what we want in a student when we're talking about children being globally prepared and ready. This young lady is amazing. Her name is Miss Mary Lane. She's going to come to you now, and she is going to present to some and introduce to others our special guest. So please welcome Miss Mary Lane.
Now, next time you watch the whole thing, hopefully it won't be the day
Our University School of Business Adjustment Professor and Economics PDH candidate is also an artist entrepreneur, Sage SALVO. Sage designed customized solutions for students, organizations, after-school programs, libraries, and special groups of VIA World Lab contemporary language integration, a method in support of organizations respectively for education missions. He has recently had guest appearances on the WUSA 9 local DC television, the National Urban Radio, the Tech Cocktail commercial NetGeneration TV, Austin, Texas, Radio, and DCWAMU 85.5, CBS 1580s, and DC WHUR 96.3 radio. Additionally, Mr. SALVO is the author of the forthcoming book, Hip Hop, the 40-Year Neo-Romantic Literacy Period. Sage SALVO is a 2011 MBA graduate from the University of Toronto and also received 2 distant bachelor degrees in accounting and finance from the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. In 2003 and 2004, he respectively, he has currently a PhD in economics and a candidate at Howard University. Please welcome Mr. Sage SALVO.
I'm wondering if I can actually sit. Yeah. All right. So, Miss, is this my center here? Everybody around me? Yeah, that looks good. First of all, thank you very much for the introduction. It is indeed a pleasure and an honor to be here. I want to thank Dr. Lowenstein as well, Mrs. Shini as well, for having me, and of course, Suitland High School. We got in the background. So thank y'all very much. It's an honor to be the literary artist for this particular initiative in STEAM and the work that PG County is doing right now. I think it's innovative and groundbreaking work, and I have a lot of goals for this particular program, and I think it's going to be used as a model abroad and that other counties and districts are going to be able to replicate very shortly the successes that we have here and make sure we do some integrated programming in STEAM. I'm going to present and speak, and hopefully we'll have a large dialogue just about STEAM and my particular pathway into STEAM and how I came to understand this integration process, and particularly the power that our current culture and our current music, hip-hop has, and the role that it can play with particular integration and STEAM integration. So I'm going to start where most stories start, and that's just at the beginning. And I think we have some slides we can put up and do a screen share as well. If we can get it out here. See how that works. So don't have to look at me the whole time. Oh, there we go. So for me, the story starts in Washington, D.C. In the 1980s. This is my northeast neighborhood. Snapshot of the back alley there. First 13 years of my life spent here. Great family atmosphere, great community. But we certainly had our troubles in the 80s and the 90s. Washington, D.C., very high crime neighborhoods were infested with crack, cocaine, and heroin. So it was very much what many communities around and urban communities around the U.S. look like. So that's the origin and beginning of where I come from and where my family is and how I kind of learned to be in the world. And that allowed me to progress, though. I had a very strong family unit, great loving mother, disciplinarian father, who always instilled in me that education was the best thing that I could achieve. So I had done good in school always, and I made it one of my priorities to continue to do so. But I had this passion that was beginning to well up around 12 years old. You can go to the next slide. Around 12 years old, and initially for me it started with poetry. And about middle school, it was about 12, 13 years old, I would have friends that would solicit me to write love letters to their girlfriends, because I apparently was pretty smooth talker for a 12, 13-year-old. And so I was understanding certain languages and systems, and I was using those things, and I began to write a lot with friends in my circle, and that built itself up into writing whole poems and stories, and some of my teachers took note. And through my teenage years, as I progressed and I kept writing, like many of you, I began to put whole songs together, began to record, and eventually that led me to being a host at Busboys and Poets, which I know a lot of you all are familiar with. So my very first sort of time on the stage was at Busboys and Poets, the original location, 14th and B. And as a host, the real benefit is not just having a platform to express your own work, but it's seeing all the great artists and all the other great poets that come grace the stage. Because what happens is a dialogue occurs, and you guys are riffing off of each other. You're feeding off of each other. You're learning the way that poet, and for Busboys, it was a famous spot, so people from all over, California, Dallas, Canada, when they came to DC, they would stop through there to perform. So I was engaged in this dialogue with these great poets that I was able to sort of get into this community with. And from there, I was able to meet other people, and I did, what's called a mixtape. Some of you all know about that, particularly this particular media literacy department, put together a mixtape. And it got some spins, locally on KYS and 95.5, and it was played in a couple of venues. And so I was inspired. I still stayed on my education path. Went to Howard, started a PhD program there. But I was inspired. I was performing pretty regularly around DC, Virginia, Maryland, and I kind of decided I wanted to continue to use this somehow, even though I didn't know what that would be. So next slide takes us into an interesting dynamic. You take the poet, you take the hip hop artist, and you stick them in a PhD program in economics. And what do you think is going to happen? So what began to happen was the frameworks and the philosophy that I was studying in economics, I began to import those into my work, into my artistry. And the way it breaks down is if I go to express something, there's a certain system there. And I wanted to, as a poet, you're always stretching the boundaries of expression. You're always trying to find the next best thing to say or the next best way to express yourself. And so in economics, there's a lot of theories about what is the total production possibility, what can totally be produced with the resources that you have given. So I started to toy around with these theories about how that relates to language. And it drove my professors crazy because I wasn't doing anything in the real economy with money or the financial markets. I wanted to put it in the literature, in the literary theory. So it drove something wild, but it led me to some more beliefs, which in the next slide we can get to. And these three gentlemen. So this guy over here on the left, that's me. That's part of my first album cover back in the day. This guy in the middle was Paul Samuelson, Nobel Prize winning economist. If I'm not mistaken, one of the first American Nobel Prize winning economists. And to his left is Noam Chomsky, who is a great philosopher and theorist when it comes to literary expression and the language faculty. So when you roll all of this together, effectively what you get is a system. You can see in the back there's some crossroads there. It's a system that's able to dissect language based on the production possibility and based on what's the most that you can do and how you can do it. And so that began this new thing that I call Words Live, which is a program that effectively takes contemporary language, music, social media, even computer coding, reverse engineers it back into literature to show the systems are the same, the standards are the same, and then how we can explore what's possible using English, using the language in that regard. And so you get the logo there, the next slide there, and this is effectively what formed from there. So we'll go through some examples quickly of what it means to STEAM. You can tap over to Prezi from here. Start back with his brother Noam Chomsky here. And effectively, what Noam Chomsky is famous for is this thing called generative language. And as effectively we say, language is a creation. You know, we looked at Shakespeare. He invented over 75 words. It didn't exist prior to him. He was functioning in what's called iambic pentameter, which is a rhyme scheme, a rhythm scheme, an accounting scheme. So to make certain words and expressions fit, he had to invent new expressions and invent new words. So from that instance, the author of the language can actually contribute to the language that they're using. That sparks something, because what's the basis of learning a language, learning how to read, learning how to speak? And as Noam Chomsky says, about these objects of reference. What can you sort of make a reference point to, whether it's something that's an analogy or a metaphor or even something phonetically that's spoken like alliteration? There has to be an anchor, something that you're referencing, some mental structure that you're going to reference. And from that standpoint, you can create the new language. You know, a lot of folks laugh, but Beyonce had a song, or Jesse Child had the song Bootylicious in 1996. Bootylicious in the dictionary now. You know, it's been taken into the lexicon. That's, you know, sort of proof the way that our language evolves. Our language will take in new terms, new expressions, new ideas if it hits critical mass. And so from that perspective, you, just like Shakespeare, can contribute to the language you're using. You know, you don't have to be at an effect of English. You learn it, you master it, and you can contribute to it. It's an open system. It's something you can participate in and create within. And so, just following after him, we just sort of looked at the history of how to create language and how words came into being, how expressions came into being, how certain literary devices came into being. And we started seeing that populate all through hip hop. And hip hop became the gold standard for judging how that thing came in. So it's like him, it extends out literary artists, hip hop artists, and it gives us a little bit of this thing in this theme curriculum now that I call arts integration, and really just hip hop integration there. What the hip hop allows you to do is connect those authors in the past, whether it's T.S. Eliot, whether it's H.G. Wells, whether it's Shakespeare, whether it's Lord Byron. They're using the same exact devices. The people that you're like Jay-Z, Lil Wayne, Nas, Eminem, what we do is we run that core so that you all know that this is not something that you have to but something you can participate in, and that you can take and advance the next form of expression. I tell people all the time, we argue about Drake, and Drake and Lil Wayne by default, they do something with simile that wasn't done before 15 years ago. So Drake will have a line and say something like, "I just knew that she was fine like a ticket on the dash." So we understand fine as a reference point. Fine, you understand it in two ways, like a parking ticket, you get the fine, it's on the dash, but also fine meaning very attractive and late, right? It's fine. So when he says, "I knew she was fine like a ticket on the dash," it has that simile structure, but it has that what's called a double entendre, that dual meaning on the inside on fine. That's a new device. It's not because he doesn't understand simile. He's making a new expression based on his understanding of simile. So this is again how we advance the language, how we advance our expression. And as that gets adopted, more and more writers and more authors are going to use those types of techniques. And it's meant to be appreciated in a certain kind of way. So this is how you need to participate in your own language, once you know those fundamentals. And once you realize that, you realize you're operating in a system, you become very much like these gentlemen up here. These are scientists. And we always say that scientists is really the process of discovery. It's surprising, no matter what science you break down, physics, biology, chemistry, it's the process of discovery. And if we treat language like that science, then we're doing the exact same thing. It's a process of discovering new ways of expression. And even go back to looking at the history of expression. But the interesting thing about these gentlemen, some of my favorite scientists, is they were artists as well. And so there seems to be a connection between scientific understanding and artistic understanding. It's all based around these systems and this process of discovery. You look at George Washington Carver, we know he's very, very famous for the peanut and all the sort of innovations around that particular plant. But he was also a painter, avid painter. He painted before he became a scientist, and in fact, he was in a painting class painting so many plants that his teacher asked him to start studying plants in the first place, because all he would do all day was paint plants. So he started off as a painter first. Nikola Tesla, he's becoming more famous now. In his day, he wasn't as appreciated, but he was an avid poet. The father of electricity and free energy came to this country with like a suitcase full of poems that he wrote. Some of his poetry is still available online, but he was an avid poet. He always spoke about the world of discovering with words, poetry thing. Steve Jobs as well, we know him as a technologist and innovator. This guy was a song, Bob Dylan, Shakespeare fanatic. And before he dropped out of college, he was actually majoring and studying in poetry. So you get these artistic bends, these artistic orientations to these scientists, which we typically don't assume. And once you look at the integration method, all STEAM is saying is to place arts in your science, tech, engineering, mathematics, because it's the same understanding of process of discovery and the same understanding of systems and systems thinking. And so that's kind of where our work resides. Hip-hop is a great tool to do that, with the way that we outline, the way we participate actively. We participate actively in this process of discovery with language, with words, and expression. It fits very, very well into a scientific understanding. And the more practice that you do, there's all types of studies that happen in your brain when you freestyle, when you put music together, about the different parts of your brain that are actually being active and engaged. And I just think it's time that we really sort of very, very intentionally place arts at the center of the scientific process, at the center of the discovery process. That's part of the work that we do. And I think we want to, I know we're about 10 minutes in, want to answer some questions. If I'm not mistaken. Am I right on my time? Oh, I can keep going now. The slide's long. Keep going?
Yeah.
All right, so this is, I spent 2.5 years at University of Toronto, where they had this thing called integrated thinking, and they're far ahead. I got to admit, in Canada sometimes they can be extremely pioneering. They're a little more brave to experiment and do some things that the U.S. is still mired in tradition and won't do. But what Dean Roger Martin had was his theory about the way that you solve problems. And he has an entire theory about education should not be spliced into these separate departments and these separate silos, like you study English one day, science another, PE another day, but rather that you should learn how everything is connected. And the whole process called integrative thinking. And it speaks a lot to what we're doing with STEAM, and that's to integrate these systems. Steve Jobs is not just a technologist, he's a poet. George Washington Carver is not just a scientist, but he's a pianist. And what systems are congruent, and at what points do you connect everything up? We have this thing called ultimate STEAM integration. If you want to teach someone literary technique, why do you just have to house that in English class? Why can't you go to shop class, make an instrument, study music theory, build our own instrument, make a beat, write a song, and then utilize the same literary techniques that some of your authors, F. Scott Fitzgerald and the others are using? But I think you're studying and actually implementing those very same literary techniques that you've been reading. So you understand at a much deeper depth, and you have something to produce. You made an instrument, made a beat, made a song. You completely integrated that art into this scientific thing about shopping and music theory, making instruments, engineering an actual instrument. And so the whole lesson plan encompasses all of those classes. You don't just have literary technique and literary device housed in one class. So he's the father of integrative thinking there, and someone I look up to as a thought leader. He's just so progressive in his thinking. Another one is Thomas Kuhn. If you look at the history of science, and this is another sort of flaw, I think, in our system, we don't teach you all the trial and error that scientists went through to arrive at their theories. We give you all the theory, and we ask you to learn it without giving you the history of how that came to be. And if you take a look at the evolution of the scientists, Thomas Kuhn said, well, actually, it's not that scientists are just so smart, they just go with these theories based on experiment. It's actually when they take things from other disciplines and apply it to something new that they have a new discovery. But if we're not taught that, you're going to think, I need to study physics to get physics. Well, you might actually need to study music to get physics. Some of those same systems are going to be there. And he's saying, if you look at the history of scientific revolutions, it happens when someone from another discipline comes in and disrupts or disturbs what's currently going on and advances that particular science. So that's another great read, another great book you all should look at too. He has a whole model called the Kuhn cycle that a lot of folks put over here too. We can go some more. Again, this is sort of our platform, and what we do at Words Live and the work we're doing in PG is connecting it all, specifically with English language arts. That's the ELA. It has your mathematics component, it has your computer science component. Computer science specifically, I take a small quiz with because it's another language.
I'm going to try to give questions, and let's try it out.
Okay. With computer science language, I think that if we begin to treat a lot of your languages in computer science, be it HTML5, Python, all those languages, we can actually implement that into some English classes and have you learn multiple things at the same time. So you become coders. There's people like Danny Jones that are just waiting for high schoolers like you to learn how to code and make new products, and make new apps, become uploaders, not just downloaders. So I think I want to open it up. Some questions now.
Yes. Our students from Bladensburg High School have questions for you. Okay. Let me just tell, if you can, they have to unmute themselves so we can hear them. Hi, Bladensburg High School. Hi. Can you click on unmute so we can hear you? You need to hover. There you go.
So, Julian.
Oops.
Got it again.
I think they
There we go.
Okay, good.
All right. Hi. Okay, one more time. Hi. How you guys? Take it again? Okay. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Ready, Belton? So, Dr. Britton, come on the way. Let Belton come in. Give us one moment. We're switching speakers. See you. There you go.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
We are the Global NGY ambassadors from Bladensburg High School. We're very excited to join the conversation today. And we have a few questions for Mr. Salvo.
All right, we're switching. Awesome. Okay, great. Here we go.
Hi.
Hello.
I have a question. It's for Mr. Salvo. What themes have you incorporated in your music and why?
Say it one more time.
What themes have you incorporated in your music and why?
It's a very, very good question. What's your name again?
Daniela.
Daniela. Beautiful
Yes.
question, Daniela. I appreciate it. So my music, it tends to be more values. So I love talking about family. I love talking about love. I love talking about things like discipline and fidelity. I think a little bit of that is intentional to kind of balance out what pop music does. I'm certainly in my orientation with Busboys and Poets. Certainly that crowd is, underground music or underground hip hop, so it tends to be a little more values based. But I think there's an opportunity to make values popular as well. So I try to do it in a really cool and slick kind of way, not a preachy method, but certainly those themes would be things that you would find in my music.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Can we ask one more? Yes. Okay. Person, Gabriel? No, who's the second one? Godwin. Godwin. Go, Godwin. Yes. Where's he? Come on, Godwin. Cindy, come on. Give us one moment.
Hi, I have another question, and is what roles do you think artists have in their community?
Say it one more time. Let me get your name.
My name is Cindy.
How are you? Nice to meet you.
I'm good, and nice to meet you too. What roles do you think artists have in their community?
What roles do artists have in the community?
Oh my, that's a powerful question. That's a great question. And I'm going to say, most especially right now, as we're seeing some civil unrest in the community, with the verdicts and the things and going on with police brutality. There was a good article by the drummer of the Roots, and he had a call to action for artists. And he said there needs to be a soundtrack for this type of unrest. And if you look at the history of any community involvement, the history of civic disobedience, the history of protest, your artists, typically, at least especially prominent artists, they were at the vanguard. They were at the front of that movement because artists have a particular voice, be it the ability to put emotion in a song, emotion in a speech, to arouse the passion with their music. Artists have a special, very, very special place in the community as vocalists and as mouthpiece, so to speak. So we artists have a very, very central role to play in the community, definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that. There's another question from Connecticut, but they will just ask us through the chat box right now. So if you can hear us from Connecticut, would you mind chatting? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, or you can also use your YouTube comment reply, so you can ask your question. While we're waiting for that, can anybody else from here, if you have any? Oh, there is one.
Say your name. Come up here quick. By the way, I want to thank Dr. Maria Austria. She is an advisor to the Global NetGeneration of Youth, and she serves. Oh, and she serves as Prince George's County specialist for ESOL, English as a second language, for the grades 9 through 12. And you met her in the November 7th virtual visit. So we're thrilled to have support and a strong community. Now we have one of our students,
My name's Pierre. And today is why do industries and television allow like celebrities and stuff to post like show inappropriate like you know how music is and stuff like it has like why do they allow
some inappropriate things to be shown so freely? You know, I really wish that we had a logical answer for that. I wish that there was something that made sense to answer that, but again, you got to look at the fact that these are companies that are attempting to make money, and they operate by certain belief systems. One of those belief systems is the idea that sex sells, and that folks need to be broadcasting these images of flesh and bodies and erotic images constantly to sell a product. Personally, I think that's deeply wrong. I think it's flawed, but that's how they operate. That's the motive belief that they're operating from. But I would challenge, you all, because what they're saying is effectively that you want to see it. And so when you organize enough people to say that actually we don't want to see this, we want to see some other things that maybe can inspire us, you'll see it change. You will see it change, but you got to organize that message and get it out to you.
And I would like to also add that the NetGeneration of Youth was founded in 1999 to address civic engagement, media literacy, and youth voices. We're going to get to hear two more voices in a minute, but I wanted to let you know that the issue you just raised in terms of what's appropriate is central to the literacy movement, being media literate in the 21st century. We go back to historic times. We look at the past here. In the past, to be literate meant in the Roman times to be an orator. Friends, Roman countrymen. But now, and then for hundreds of years, it was print literacy and numeracy for trade. That was literacy. Literacy now incorporates visual literacy, media literacy, arts literacy, financial literacy, these technology literacy. These are the 21st century literacies. And we have two more ambassadors. Come on up. Your name, smile, and tell them your question.
My name is Kalia, and my question is, why do you accept rap as an appropriate piece of literature? Because nowadays, people are looking at rap as a negative connotation to the lifestyle. And I know back then, when rap first started, it kind of was supposed to be positive and bring more of a message. So why do you think rap is still a really popular for a piece of literature that we should study there?
Definitely. So if you look at the origin of hip-hop, it took a long time to get adopted into the mainstream. We're really talking about the early 90s when it was kind of official. Even when messages were by and large very positive, the art form was discredited as not as a mature literary art form, or even not as a mature musical art form. So from the very inception, early 70s, hip-hop has always had a rough road in terms of being taken seriously. But it's only been through the brilliance of artists like KRS-One, artists like Rakim, artists like Nas, artists like Jay-Z, with their sheer literary power. And it's their conviction and their consistency to literary device and technique that qualify them as authors and literary agents in their own right. To the point that we've gotten, Pop, Nas have universities, full out Stanford University for one, studying their body of work, their lyrics, songs. These are in literary classes at the highest levels of university. So we've kind of gotten past the argument that it is a literary work. It's just now sort of removing the stain and the stench of these images and these negative connotations and these repetitive negative influences, honestly, in music, and really digging down to like what these folks are doing with language. But we can get to that point. I think you see it adopted.
Yes. And we, our global community, had some interest in looking at our students from Cyprus and Israel and Africa, South Africa, Zambia, Uganda, are interested in knowing, because hip-hop is a worldwide phenomenon. So how do you feel, You know, we're interested in how students feel and recognize and how hip-hop reflects our culture, their culture, because if you look at the history of hip-hop, it came out of the pain and suffering of people, and they began to use the music and the lyrics and the beats, their culture. So what would you say to our students around the world?
So for our global students, one thing that I was on a panel with, or I was in a program that there was a panel with Steve Stout. And Steve Stout wrote a book, I believe last year, called The Tanning of America. And in it, he puts hip hop as this force that has done a lot of global cultural export across the country from the U.S. in a very incorporating way. It invites all races in, it invites all ethnicities in to give your voice and give a platform. And in that conversation, you know, it kind of came out that the only place to go is global. You know, whether it's now us looking at the voices of the youth that are coming out of Africa or Europe or Asia, there's already multiple collaborations on the production side of hip hop with producers like Kanye West and Pharrell. They go to Tokyo, they go to China, they go to Asia and collaborate with beat makers and producers there to make their beats now. And so the music side, the production side has already been globally integrated. It's only a matter of time before the lyrics and the vocal side becomes integrated as well. And if you look at the history of hip hop, it's always the producer first. You know, when it started, it was always DJ such and such and the MC. Like the music always starts with the orientation of the music first, then the vocals. So you're seeing that pattern unfold now. The production is very much global already.
My name is Michael.
What's going on tonight?
And I want to know this time. What?
I could. I could.
Sure.
Sure, song. All right. Are you gonna do a beat for me? Got something to say on beat? I know we got at least one beat. Right?
Go for it. Go for it.
Y'all saw how Seagull makes that beat, right? That was over for me. Somebody start talking.
Go for it.
But this is old school. Okay. Okay. I was born with dominion. I was made perfect. Ill how my skin resembles the earth surface. Oil money, slick as the earth's surface. Grimy on my grind. I shine because I'm working. I'm wise and wild. Hard to reconcile. Was the city youth, now the world golden child. Born by the river truth. I flow like the Nile, and I'm a monster. Cause I will flow this pretty. When they turned me up and had J-Lo like Diddy. I freed over, ain't no love in the city. DC station, mainly your brain. Top billing, King Arthur. This so many nights at my round table. Dropping in my words to my pinpoint able. Pinpoint truths in the world full of fables. Name brand raps, I don't ever need a label.
We are so lucky that you have accepted the invitation to be PG Prince George's County Literacy Scholar in Residence. And we are very lucky that you also have committed to supporting the global next generation of youth. I want to tell you guys that in addition to recognizing his talents and enjoying him when he worked at the International Baccalaureate Conference, I've known Gil since he's a little boy, and he calls me Auntie Dr. Ronnie. He is the cousin of my son's best friend, so family, it's family. And to the pleasure is the family that we have created here in the community, in the Prince George's County, in joining the global community. The family feeling that we have developed over these years across the country and around the world is very special because we believe in the Ubuntu spirit. Together we are, together we can. And as we get ready to close, we want to give you an opportunity to continue the dialogue to celebrate arts integration and look at hip-hop as Secretary Kerry talked arts is transformational. Well, hip-hop itself is a transformational force, and we want you to be able to continue the dialogue. So I'm turning it back to Gil to close out our program. And we're going to invite, first of all, what I did not say in the beginning was that we are very fortunate that we build family and work with people of all ages. And we want to give a special applause to our graduate advisors in technology, Ms. Biol Yoon, who we call Star, and Ms. Khadija Siddiqui, who we call Khadija. There you go.
There you go.
And we have another person that we want to thank, and we'd like her to come up and say something. A year ago, a little over a year and a half ago, we were fortunate to have the Congresswoman from Maryland, from Prince George's County and Anne Arundel, Congresswoman Donna Edwards, take on a hosting of our global virtual visit on cybersecurity. And she just supported us, and she has sent us a very special staff person in her office, and we'd like her to have a chance to say hello to you. Let's all give it up for Miss Salida Singleton.
I just want to say this has been wonderful. Thanks again to Suitland High School, to Dr. Lowenstein. I had no idea who you were. Oh, this was fabulous. I thought this was really great. Continue, of course, to engage in this partnership and work with STEM and STEAM.
STEM and STEAM, yes, thank you. And last May, when I was giving an award to Mr. Elijah Owens, a student at Brooklyn Latin High School in New York, and the award was doubly significant. You know, we do scholarships, 10 scholarships a year, and you'll be getting more information about that. Well, when I came to give the special scholarship to Elijah Owens in honor, the scholarships were given in honor of our first honorary chairperson, Congressman Major Owens, who was unafraid to innovate, lead, and speak truth to power as a congressman, and supported and encouraged the evolution of the global next generation of youth. At Brooklyn Public Latin were a bunch of alumni, and one of them approached me afterwards, Miss Annabelle Diaz, saying that she's an economist and graduating this year, but she was so touched by what was going on with a global community of youth that she said, what can I do to support you? So she convinced her college, Muhlenberg College in Pennsylvania, to give her an internship, and she's been our college intern this fall. And if you go up on the usinnovation.org website, you will see one of her essays and work on women in STEM, a conference that she went to. And so let's give it up for Annabelle Diaz.
Hello, everyone. Like Dr. Ronnie said, I'm Annabelle Diaz, and I'm so happy to be here. I love the NGY community. It's so welcoming, and it's so friendly, and I just love it, and I hope to stay in it forever and ever. So thank you so much for your questions. They were very good and awesome and beautiful. We appreciate your participation and your spectatorship in today's virtual visit. We brought Sage Salvo as a part of our NGY programming, simply because he's so inspirational and awesome. And also because we see that hip-hop and the arts, especially, reflect our past, our present, and have the power to shape our future. So music and the arts are very, very important in our lives as students, instructors, and as just global citizens and community members. Music brings us together, and it has power to shape our lives. So, as a follow-up to this virtual visit, we invite you to tweet your reflections and responses to the hashtag Shaping the Future on Twitter. Tweet about the universality of hip-hop, the universality of music and the arts, and its power to shape our lives and our future. And not only that, but also how you as students, as instructors, as NGY community members, and in your local communities, how you yourself plan to shape the future. So a final thank you to the NGY community, to Sage Salvo for such a wonderful presentation, to Suitland High School for being facilitators, to Mr. John Shishini, the Executive Officer of Arts Integration at Prince George, to Principal Nate Newman, and to the NetGeneration of Youth Ambassadors and students and instructors. Thank you very much.